Hi everyone, this is Dr. Katherine.Kelly, and just as a little reminder, Mercury is in retrograde. I don't know about you, but it is wreaking some havoc, and that's why I always try to remind you folks that, okay, if you go through a little bit of a bumpy period or a lot of a bumpy period a few times a year, that there might be something else going on. Now, if you think about, I'm going to do a little astronomy lesson real quick. Here's the sun, here's Mercury, here's Venus, here's Earth. Now, technically, Mercury has already passed the circumnavigation of where Earth is, which is why things may be feeling so bumpy right now. I have a friend who calls this sort of the speedboat effect because, you know, you just feel like life is like this. And every single client that's been coming in has been just feeling it and feeling lots of different things going on. Now, I try to watch for patterns and themes, and you probably hear that as I do some of these videos. But there seems to be two themes that are really coming up right now through this phase of Mercury being in retrograde. And the reason I bring this up as a psychologist is the fact that emotionally we are affected. We really don't have a choice but to be affected by anything that is going on that is a gravitational pull, that is anything that is outside of us. We're affected. We are energetic beings, so we are going to be affected. And the two themes that are going on, or seem to be going on, is number one, is this all worth it? And the all could be fill in the blank. It might be whatever, whatever it is that you in particular are dealing with. So I've had lots of clients come in and going, gosh, is this relationship worth it? Is this job worth it? Is this project I'm working on worth it? Is this self-development piece that I'm working on, is that worth it? And so I'm just having people feel kind of exasperated and feeling like they're bumping up against walls. And so they're wondering, is this all worth it? Now, my own little secret with this, and many of you know that I am, I'm going to say trying to get my second edition of Soul Health published. I have learned I will never try to launch a book during Mercury in retrograde again, because there have been so many technological glitches and there have been so many other things that have been kind of bumping up and getting in the way that it's been very frustrating. I hit the third one this morning right before I got here. And so it's one of those, I shouldn't say third of the same kind. There have probably been 20 some glitches that have happened with this particular book, which is interesting. And so I actually have been processing this. Okay, is this worth it? Why am I pushing through? Because if this isn't supposed to happen, it's not going to happen, but it's supposed to happen. And that's where theme number two comes in, is that the other thing I'm hearing from people is that they're being forced to question faith. Now, when I talk about faith, I actually don't really like the word hope. Now, if I say, I hope you have a good day, I mean that. But when I prefer the word faith, because hope is one of those words where you're still clinging on with fear. You're hoping something happens, but you don't know that it's actually going to happen. But faith is one of those things where it's like, I have faith that this is going to work out however it is supposed to. And really that is what is carrying me through my own book challenges in knowing whether or not this is all worth it, is I have faith. I have ultimate faith that this is going to work out the way it's supposed to. So people are really being forced to look at what kind of faith do they have, and are they really letting themselves get stirred up about everything, or can they sit back and go, this is going to happen how it's supposed to happen, and I need to have faith in the universe, faith in myself, faith in the people around me, or faith in the situation, that there's some reason why people are going through what they're going through. Now, little story. A few years ago, a friend and I were trying to plan a trip, and we just kept bumping up against things, and we didn't really know why. And so finally we thought, okay, we need to step back and step out of this. And both of us ended up having family members that got sick. It was my mother. My mother was put in the hospital, and I had to go home to Colorado rather than go on this trip that she and I were planning. And I think it was her mother also, was, I don't know if she was in the hospital, but she was not doing well at the same time. So it was this interesting convergence of the universe trying to help us by blocking a situation, but also having us learn how to have faith that, okay, I'm going to listen, that if this isn't working out, I need to kind of step back and let go and see what happens. Same situation seems to be happening for a lot of people right now, is that folks are, again, Mercury stirs up our old stuff. It pushes stuff to the surface that needs to be looked at anyway. It makes our stuff that we thought we had already dealt with, it brings it back and it makes it bigger. So it's like people can't help but look at it. And again, from the Pollyanna side of me, I think that's such an important part of our evolution. You know, universe is here trying to help us evolve. We just take it for granted because we don't realize there are bigger powers that are working with us to try to help us grow. And so it's that whole idea of stopping when we're in that frustrating zone and saying, okay, wait, I'm going to surrender for a minute and step back and have faith that this must be happening for a reason. So I want you to take a look at your lives and see, are you having those same questions of, gosh, is this all worth it? Whatever it is, fill in the blank. And secondly, can you step into faith and say, okay, I'm going to step back and just see what happens, because apparently you're supposed to be learning some form of faith in terms of the fact that things will work out the way they're supposed to. And it may be that, you know, I use the metaphor oftentimes, and I remember having this experience when I was leaving the medical center when I was a professor, that I felt like I was the Tasmanian devil stuck in a snow globe. That anytime I would try to make something happen, or try to control something, or try to get something that made sense, all I would do is stir up all the pieces of life again. And so I felt like I was constantly sitting there looking at the pieces, floating around, knowing, okay, I have no control over any of this. And yet, if I could just stay still and surrender to it, it all fell into place. And so it's that same idea of, do we need to learn how to have some faith here? Now, my book launch was supposed to be on the 21st of this month, a week from Saturday. When I found out this morning that this other glitch, continued glitch, same glitch, makes no sense why this glitch is happening, other than Mercury is probably playing some tricks here. It's a technological kind of thing. I'm going to have to postpone it. But I also have faith that, okay, that's not my desire. That's not what I wanted. But we don't always get what we want. We get what we need. So learning to surrender and have that kind of faith that this is supposed to be the way it's going to go. And actually, as soon as I pulled the plug, I also realized that, okay, this probably is a better option for me to pull back and surrender and just actually look at everything that is coming to me and how things are falling together. So again, Mercury retrograde right now is challenging us to ask ourselves, is this, fill in the blank for yourself, all worth it? And secondly, learning to have some faith, pushing us to step back and say, okay, I'm not sure why this is happening, but I can kind of see some of those pieces and parts coming together. It may not be what we want to see happen. It is what we need to see happen. So again, this is how we work in tandem with the universe. This is how our soul grows, is when we can tune into those discomforts and say, what the heck is this all about? And instead of trying to control something, actually stepping back and sort of surrendering to whatever it is that the universe is trying to tell us and what our souls are trying to tell us. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm a pusher. I push myself to get things done. I've gotten a ton of stuff done in my life, but I've also probably pushed myself too hard to the point where I do get a lot done, but boy, you know, I can get really exhausted in the process. And the reason I'm saying that is that's probably what a lot of you are doing right now too, is you're feeling that discomfort that Mercury is causing. And so what's happening is a lot of times people try to control it, just like that Tasmanian devil in the snow globe that I talked about a few minutes ago. You try to control something, but all you do is stir stuff up. And so it is a time to step back, watch what's happening around you, let go, which is another big part of what Mercury in retrograde is about, is really becoming in tune with what you're supposed to let go of. But then also learning to have faith. And that is the point that I want to make real quick here. Again, I just want to underline this, is that this Mercury in retrograde period seems to be about, for lots of clients, all the clients that have come to me this week and last week, it seems to be about learning, asking yourself, is this all worth it? And the this is relative to the actual person. So that's the other thing you have to pay some attention to, is what is relative to you, what's stirring in you, is this all worth it? And secondly, how can I have faith that this is going exactly how it is supposed to so that I can learn what I'm supposed to learn? You know, this is what this life thing is all about. Human life is not easy. I've said that many times in the last few weeks, and I've had some people tell me, oh, thanks a lot, Dr. Kelly. But what they're meaning is, wow, yeah, okay, let's affirm this. It's not supposed to be easy. It is supposed to be something that is a challenge. That's what helps us grow. Again, we do not grow unless we are uncomfortable, and this Mercury in retrograde period is making a lot of people uncomfortable right now. So we are almost there. Technically, Mercury is going to go out of retrograde on Sunday, which is the 15th, happens to be tax day, which is curious to me. But I always give about a week or two after that to let it kind of fizzle out, because there's still going to be some residual energy that is happening. And we just have to keep in mind that, again, these forces that happen outside of us are there to help us. I said this to someone the other day. I have this in my book, but I said this to someone the other day, that the world doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And so we have to kind of get to that point where we realize we are not being victims here. We are not being targeted as someone that is, oh, we need to go make her uncomfortable. No, that's not what this is about. Pretty much everybody is uncomfortable that I can tell. And it's that whole idea of how do we take this as lesson? How do we widen our lens? How do we look at that consciousness piece in a way that we can, again, step back, surrender, and ask ourselves, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Again, is this all worth it? Because if we don't ask ourselves, is this all worth it? Whatever the is, you know, whatever the this, the is, the whatever, we're not getting anywhere. We are supposed to be skeptics toward our own lives. We are supposed to question our own lives, because that's the only way we get clear. That is the only way we align more and more and more, is to get clear and understand, is this all worth it? My graphics person has heard and seen me kind of shaking my head and wanting to pull my hair out these last few weeks, because there are things happening that don't make any sense whatsoever with this process, with this book process. I mean, it's very, very curious what's going on. But she also said, you know, she reminded me that the things that are worth anything are difficult and challenging. And I do agree with that. And yet I also agree with the idea that sometimes what it is, we're supposed to step back and watch. Like I said, that Tasmanian devil in the snow globe, sometimes we're supposed to stop ourselves from spinning, look at all the pieces that are in our lives and let them settle into place so that we can actually observe and learn what we're supposed to. So I'm going to say it one more time. Seems to be that this Mercury in retrograde is all about, number one, is this worth it? And number two, the whole idea of how do we learn to have faith that the universe is working on our behalf? Because really stepping back and going, wait, this must be going how it's supposed to go so that I can learn and grow, is so much better than trying to fight it like that little Tasmanian devil that I mentioned. I have to create a snow globe at some point, because I've used that metaphor for myself so many times, and when I tell people, they love it. But it's that whole idea of how do we surrender, let go, and watch. And that's what Mercury in retrograde is all about. So I hope this has been helpful. I would love to hear what you have to say. I'm guessing lots and lots of people are stirred up right now. And just to keep the faith, to underline that we are almost out of this period. There will be 2 more this year, but we're almost out of this period right now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hang on. That Tasmanian devil is going to be just fine in the end, and learn how to have some faith in all this. So again, thanks again. If you want to go to my website, www.Dr.KatherineT.Kelly.com, I will definitely, as soon as I know when the book is freed up from whatever Mercury is doing, I will let you all know. And because I can't wait to have you hear this next level of consciousness that is part of soul health, and lots and lots of events coming up.